Welcome back to Getting Worked. It's your boy Jared. I'm hanging out here with my boy Ian, and we are talking about the NBA, the Eastern Division specifically, and in continuation of our last video, which if you didn't see it, you should check it out. We're continuing on with the starting five of the Southeast Division. We're going to be going over primarily talking about the starting five, but we're going to be talking about the teams as a whole and kind of get a handle on where we think they're going to end up at the end of the year. And with that, I will pass it on to my boy Ian.
Yeah. NBA season has started finally. Man, I was so glad. Watch my Bulls tonight play a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah. So we haven't got to them yet, though. We'll hold off on them. So tonight we're going to talk about the Southeast Division. Of course, that's the Miamis, the Charlottes, the Washington Wizards, the Magic, and the Hawks.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I figure we jump in. We'll start with the team I think is going to win. And I figure what we'll do, we'll just kind of go through. We'll jump through the starting five, like you said, and then whole team as a whole and stuff like that. All right. Miami Heat. A lot of people are saying this is the most balanced five in the East. You got Butler, Adebayo, Kyle Lowry, PJ Tucker transplant over from the champs, Bucks, after winning his ring. And then Mr. Sharpshooter, Duncan Robinson. It's a solid starting five. Definitely a solid starting. What is your initial kind of take on Miami?
I think, well, obviously adding in Lowry. Now he's getting on the tail end of his career here, but I think he's still a very solid anchor for the point, and I think that's what they seriously needed. With Tucker and Adebayo, and considering Butler, I think they have one of the most skilled front courts in the league right now. Adebayo, Adebayo won the skills challenge. What was it, 2 years ago? What was it as a center? Today's league center. I mean, he kind of playing center, power forward, sure. but even for power forward, he's very, very skilled. Has got a lot of kind of just sort of those glue skills that you need, right? He can do a little bit of everything, but especially he's pretty. He's a solid guy to hold down that paint. But then you add PJ Tucker, who, again, you want to talk about, the size difference, again, he kind of reminds me of like a bit more of a skilled version of like an Anthony Mason from the New York Knicks back in the 90s kind of player, right?
I can definitely see that.
Kind of more of a kind of really what would have been like big to play small forward, but now he's, positioned. I mean, heck, in Houston, he played center.
And he's not, the thing is, he's not that tall. He's
6'5", 6'4". Yeah. He's
small for a 2-guard.
Yeah. So he's
relative.
Now to be fair, he's probably he's roughly about the size of Barkley. Not quite as thick, but
sure.
and he's not going to jump through the ceiling like Barkley did. No. But he can shoot, he can defend, he can. Yeah, exactly.
He's not scared of anybody.
No,
he plays them. It doesn't matter, right?
So he's also someone you could slide into the five if you need to. He's already done it. But I think especially just see from what you saw from him in Houston and then with the Bucks, I think you really got a chance to really see what he's capable of. And again, he's not going to be the star on any team, but he doesn't need to be. He's able to bring in a lot of, again, kind of a lot of those pieces, and then even pieces that Bam doesn't bring. So then you fill that out, and then you throw Jimmy Butler on top of that, who is, arguably one of the, he seems to be one of the guys in the league that seems to have a little bit of everything that you would want from a wing. And so he's got solid defense, has a high motor, has that killer instinct.
Motor is the thing for
yeah.
him.
I mean,
that's just.
So again, I think he's and he's someone that can be slotted at the 2 or the 3 really easy.
Even 4, depending on your line.
Sure. Yeah. If you want to go small ball, because he's a beefy boy for
yeah. I was gonna say,
especially in this league. No, not for this, not for today's league. Like I said, that's where again, depending on the lineups and the matchups, you could easily slot him in the 4. Duncan Robinson. I'm glad that Duncan Robinson has turned into the player that he has become. Because there's another cat on the league, on the team, who could very well be in that slot. Who just
should be,
maybe, but he's got some growing up to do. Obviously, we're talking about Tyler Hero, so I think the fact that you have Duncan Robinson again, you got a guy who can come in, easily play the 2 or the 3, can shoot the lights out on the court. And then otherwise a fairly solid player. I mean, so it was a very, very roundabout way to say that, yes, I can see where people are coming from when they say that this is probably the most well-rounded, most balanced starting 5, especially in the league, because if you just look at what each of the individual pieces can do, man, there's a lot on the table there.
Yeah. I want to agree with it. I'm torn on the most balanced 5. I am torn on it because I don't know if I put all these pieces out on the court for 82 games plus playoffs, how long they'll all really run together. I don't know.
Sure.
So Lowry, as good as he is, I'm gonna do the kind of the anti that for a second.
Right.
Lowry, as good as he is, or at least as good as he was. 35 now, into 36.
Right.
He's not a spring chicken. He will. I question how big of a signing. The name is great, but does the name equal the player still? I don't think that's the case. I think Lowry's going to be really good. I think this is a team that will be a lot more dangerous come playoff time than they will in regular season. Even though I rank them as second, because I think that. It's one of those teams you wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs.
Right.
But quite frankly, at the same time, they also have some sort of glaring holes that I could. So in a playoff series, we're talking playoffs and the season hasn't started. So let's forget playoffs. Let's just stay in the regular season. Regular season, I don't know that Lowry's going to play as many games. He's not going to play 65, 70 games. Not because he tries to sit out or anything like that. I think it's just going to be load balancing type or load management type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's my biggest issue with this team. I think Duncan Robinson, Bam, as much as PJ Tucker is a really good player to have beside Bam, as much as he does all the dirty work and the shot blocker and et cetera, he is a little on the thinner side. And when he hits some bigger bodies, Giannis, or
Embiid,
any of the Bucks, basically.
Embiid,
that you notice just how much smaller he is.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they list him at 6'10". He's more like 6.
Yeah, 6'8", 6'9", something like that.
He's not really that height. Butler and him, when they stand next to each other, aren't that much different in height. I mean, they're different. Like Bam's clearly taller, but it's not like, oh yeah.
That's accounting for Jimmy Butler's hairdo, right?
Well, it is the hair. Yeah, I was gonna say the hair is tough. Leave my boy Jimmy alone.
I'm just joking, man.
No, Jimmy Butler is that wherever this team goes, that dude's gonna be carrying them all the way, dragging them, kicking and screaming. So help them. And for that reason, I will say Tyler Hero. He's not in the starting lineup. He's the linchpin.
He has the opportunity. He has the opportunity to play himself into the starting 5.
Absolutely.
At any time.
He can easily send Duncan Robinson to the bench to be the 6th man.
Yeah, which again would be perfectly fine again with them. Now,
quite frankly, I think that makes them a better team
Right.
as the season goes on and into the playoffs because a guy like Duncan Robinson, shooter, heck yeah, guys like that can get played off the court,
Right.
scheme against them,
Yep.
et cetera, et cetera. In regular season, it's not that big a deal. So then for that reason, Kyle, when he's not playing, that should be Hero's slot. So can Hero play enough, bring the ball up, that type of thing, set up the offense when Kyle's not there?
See, and I think,
so,
and that's I think
now
that's the
team's a lot
other.
different.
I think that's the other point. And kind of like I was speaking about Lowry again. Like he was on the tail end, right? But if once you take him out of at least that kind of that more traditional point role, it kind of starts to fall apart. I mean, I know Hero can kind of do it, but he's not like a real true to form point guard. You got Oladipo, as best I can tell, who's hurt, but again is more of a combo guard, not like a true to form point guard. So really, like looking at the roster,
Jimmy can play point.
Jimmy can take on the role a little bit. I mean, that's then you're kind of shifting up the scheme a little bit. Not saying it's bad, but you're shifting up the scheme. But if you think about like kind of that true point, that floor general on the floor, Lowry's really all they have. Yeah. So it was good that they got him at the very least, and they definitely needed somebody. Now, also to the point is, I mean, now just because you could argue they're the most balanced doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to translate to success in the playoffs. I think that they have, out of this group, this Southeast division, I think that yes, they have one of the better chances. Outside maybe another team we'll talk about in a bit, but especially at playoff level. I think they could easily be
even
one of the
regular season because they get to play as in their division.
Right. Yeah.
Multiple times.
But I could see them easily becoming like being one of those teams that has like a shockingly good season record and maybe get into a pretty decent slot into the playoffs and then just fall off the map. And that's a shame, but that that kind of just seems to be their MO right now. And although I think that they've definitely upgraded, I don't know if it's good enough to necessarily push them over the edge, especially in the East right now, even with all the turmoil going on. Kind of just looking at just sort of the names on the pages until I know otherwise, it's kind of hard to place them over some of the other teams in the East. I mean, even some of the teams that we talked about last time,
Yeah, no, for sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that absolutely sort of, I think it's important. A team like this, normally I'm looking at them kind of going, y'all are kind of built for the playoffs. Like you should be built for the playoffs. Kind of rest Lowry, Jimmy, let him make sure he gets his rest. Tucker, Bam, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure everybody's kind of ready for their playoffs and roll in. At the same time, I think what you said is very key. I think it's the fact that they actually need to be better seed so that they're playing the bottom dwellers,
right?
As opposed to in the middle. Let's say they finished 4th or 5th, 6th, and now they're playing another team. They're playing the Hawks in the playoffs, or they're playing one of those type of teams.
That's gonna hurt.
Now it's a little different because those teams are long and lanky, and I think teams that are as tough as this team is, okay, as long as Butler's on your team, as long as PJ Tucker's on you, you're not going to have a problem with motor and diving for loose balls and stuff like that. And if you do, you won't play. You might not be on the team. You might not make the bench. I mean, there won't be an issue with that. You got Pat Riley in the organization, et cetera, et cetera. You're not going to have a want to issue. I wonder sometimes they don't have a lot of length outside of Bam. Lowry has never been known as a shutdown defender, not even a kind of shutdown defender. He's a good player. I'm not knocking him. And again, I'm talking about Lowry of 30, 28, 31, 32, not 35, 36. I don't know.
Yeah, he was never really he was never really known as like a shutdown defender, but he's tough. He's tough.
Definitely.
He kind of reminds me of like a Doc Rivers kind of player, you know.
Sure. Actually, that's a real good example.
You know,
absolutely.
I mean, sharp, tough, not kind of more blue collar, kind of a guard. You know,
the game.
Yeah, you know, understands absolutely, no doubt. I mean, if he really wanted to, I could see it. The other thing, and then we probably should move on.
We'll go to the next. Yeah.
But I think the other thing too, and again, probably I see, especially like looking at the roster here as it's currently constituted, especially like as far as like the one thing I could see that might change up the thing that I said about them maybe surprisingly getting a good seed in the East, like through the season to get a good seed in the playoffs, is their depth is thin. It starts to really
Hero. We named
Oladipo. You have Markieff Morris, who's again a good solid guy. I think he's someone that can come in and fill in for PJ real easy.
Sure.
Dwayne Dedman, who could again kind of like Hero. I could see Dedman having an opportunity for a resurgence. It's just a question of whether he takes up on it, and then like their center position starts to fall off. From there, you see a lot of duplicate. They get small real fast, and a lot of duplicate names showing up in the second, third, and like you got basically Tyler in 3 positions. Especially until if Oladipo can come back and be even, you know, like 75 to 80% of what he was, doesn't have to be a star, but he's got a solid enough skill set that I think he could do something. But he's not gonna.
Let me ask you: when you say come back to what he was when, what he was in Indiana, injury, what he was last year.
I think 75% of what he was with Indiana. If he can come back at like 75% of what he was in Indiana when he really kind of started becoming a common name, you know, you started to hear that name pop up a lot of times because the dude was doing work.
He left the Thunder.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Kind of funny how that works.
It's so strange.
People leave OKC and then, you know, the name comes up. But anyway, that's a whole nother team for a whole nother discussion. But anyway, their depth's a serious problem. I think they've got a lot of skill here, but the biggest, and to the point is really, can they get a good enough placement into the playoffs to where then they can leverage themselves to where especially you start to shrink the rotation a little bit and the depth isn't quite as big of a thing unless you have some major injuries, and then you can really start to, you know, you pretty much just plow through it. I think then
injury wise, I mean, if Butler went down,
forget about it. It's done. It's done. Bam goes, it's done. And then Lowry, not because of necessarily who he is, but especially because that position in particular is very, very weak. They really have a lot of like issues on depth. So especially with his age, it'll be a problem. So anyway,
I will say one last thing before we jump off this. I think Lowry will, and Tucker as well, but specifically Lowry will be as big, if not more valuable to the team in practice. Things like that. A lot of times we talk about the starting lineup and how they are on the court and things like that. For him, I think it's actually going to be getting in practice, getting in guys like Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, those guys' faces. Look, you're supposed to do this when you come off this. We're doing this. I want you to do that. I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to some other teams.
Sure.
I think for him, Butler is a certain kind of personality, and he is the type of personality that can wear thin. Eventually, people him out. As much as I love him, Butler's that guy. He's that guy. He will drive. You can drive you straight to the top and off a cliff. And so having that other voice, a guy that has done more than Jimmy. Like that's the one guy that Jimmy can't turn to and be like, "Look, you're not yet. So those, I think there's a little bit of a balance.
I'm sorry. I couldn't pay attention. But the sparkles on my ring were just just distracted me a little bit. You know,
Sorry.
He can say that. You know, yeah. And again, I think that speaks to like the Doc Rivers kind of thing, the coach on the floor kind of role, and I think Lowry could help with that. PJ again. I think PJ is one of those guys that will get in Butler's face and say, "All right, step off." You know,
you need to go there. And they're as much as great as Butler is and is driven of a leader, those type of leaders are great to have.
Yeah,
sometimes they're short-lived. Somebody assassinates them,
or they take a break to play baseball for a couple of years. You know,
perhaps they do. That's probably why I like. Anyhow, so that's Miami. I think it's so important for them to second. That's why.
No, I agree. They definitely got to get in the top 3, top 4. Once you got to get to 5 and down, then they're going to really start to run into some problems, I think.
Yeah, you start running into teams that are
too close or just better. Yeah.
So speaking of one of those teams, the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks. This team, Mr. Trae Young. Okay, so I will say this. As far as the Hawks go here, let me switch over so I have their lineup as well right in front of me. The Hawks, outside of Trae Young, who has trouble guarding standalone rocks, they are a long team, and quite frankly, they have to be to offset him. And I mean that, not trying to knock him nearly like it probably sounds like I am. Trae is a heck of an offensive player, but in any statistical show, not an average, a bad defender.
Right.
He's short. His arms are short. He's not covering up anybody. He maybe will take a charge. You know, like that's your best option, but he's too little. You don't want him doing that too much. But the rest of they can come in waves on the wings, though. You got guys like John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, Wahoo. Bogdan he's the sharpshooter, right? He's sharpshooter extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Surprisingly bigger than you think he is.
Yes.
He's one of those guys that's old. I watched him against a few teams last year, and I didn't realize he's as big as he is. And then, of course, the black hole that is in the middle, everything flows into Clint Capella, where Capella's just look to swat any and everything away from inside. And then after them, then they can go with Gallinari comes off the bench. Huster, I think his name.
Huerter. He's another one of those guys that can shoot the lights out. Kind of again, and I think he's in a good kind of where like we probably say like Duncan Robinson really should be, kind of coming in as that shooter, that catch and shoot, shoot the lights out. Wing off the bench.
Not anybody on defense, right?
Not really. Yeah. I mean, so I think that this team's definitely interesting. Cam Reddish is on there. Yep.
Again, they're Lou Will.
Yep, Lou Williams on there. He's in a similar boat to Lowry in the sense that no, he's not the Lou Williams that we necessarily, had, years ago, but at the same time, you got good solid guard. Again, talk about like, someone on the, as far as being a solid voice in practice, that kind of thing. Obviously doesn't mind coming off the bench. He made his career coming off the bench. So,
problem for him.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't mind that.
They seem like they have their people in the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
If you just kind of look at it across, like you were just saying about Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson's in the starting lineup in Miami. Probably more of a bench guy. He
probably should be.
Hero.
Yeah,
that would kind of be a better fit. Lou Will, Gallinari, Dang coming off the not Luau, but Gorgie.
Yeah,
Gorgie. His good solid backup center.
Yeah,
like he does his role, that type of thing. This team is really set up well. I do question a bit Mr. Trae Young. As good as he is, I question his question his height for one thing. A question his size. Yes, I know it's a different NBA, but he's maybe 5'10". And
If that, if that, yeah, yeah.
And they've changed the rules a little bit.
That's what I was going to say.
That I question how. I'm looking forward to seeing how they affect, because it was specifically for him and Harden. I mean, they can make it, claim it for everybody else, and there were so plenty of other players that would try to lean in and stuff like that. And we're talking about the rule change where if someone makes an unorthodox, I forget the exact wording on it, remember right off the top, but basically if you make some abnormal move, offensive shooting motion, then it used to be called a foul, and you would see guys do it all the time. You know, they pump fake, guy go in the air and they jump sideways to jump into him, or kick a foot out, or lean. His thing is come around the screen, drive forward, and then jump backwards.
Right.
Because the guy's fighting over the screen is right behind his head, and he jumps backwards. Stuff like that, they're supposed to be eliminating. I think it's one of those things that'll happen during the regular season, or definitely during preseason. I think it'll happen a little bit during the regular season, and then it'll tail off as the season goes on. And by the playoffs, I don't see them calling it anymore.
Right.
I don't see them calling Trae Young his 5th or 6th foul because he came around and jumped backwards into. I don't see that happening. And so for that reason, I have them. I think I put them at 6th this year for the simple reason I think they overachieved last year. I don't think they were nearly as good. Yes, they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that had a lot to do with everybody around, who they were playing, how it was kind of breaking down, the whole Philadelphia thing, stuff like that. I think that's more of what their reason for getting there.
Well, Philly beat themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really there's no real way around that. So, and they just happened to be in the lucky position to take advantage of that.
They took advantage.
Sure.
They did it. Absolutely.
I can't blame them for that.
I'm not so sure that they were even better than the Knicks, to be honest with you. And I didn't think the Knicks were that great. I think the Hawks caught fire. They were special last year. It'll be interesting if they can remain special. I
think the Knicks
like
now with especially Fournier, because I can't count on Walker just because of his legs. A healthy Walker with Fournier on that team, I think definitely pushes them over the Hawks for sure. I think even just having exactly and just the toughness and just the beast Randall has become, and if he continues that, then I think that they can.
Only thing. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I would definitely just at least just kind of looking at it the way those players are pieced together on the Knicks, I would definitely put them over the Hawks right now. But
the only advantage the Hawks have is that star power. There is no brighter light than Trae Young between those two teams.
Sure.
So I mean, and I'm kind of grouping them because I sort of see them all as interchangeable. And the only reason we had the Knicks finishing 3rd in the East. I think that's more to do with coaching and not knocking Atlanta's coach, but Tibbs is an awesome, outstanding. His team plays hard every night, for better or worse. They play everybody, all the minutes they can play, get every win they can out of a regular season, and then the playoffs will start. So for that reason, I think the Hawks are going to kind of drop down and, water evens out, right? So they'll hit more of the mean this time. And so I'm seeing them as 6th.
No, I think that's fair. I think it's fair. I think if anything else, Trae can play them into 6th. Basically, absolutely. And I think that's about it. I mean, I think the overall athleticism. I think Capella's actually. I mean, and that's the other thing too is I think Capella actually really feels like good playing there. He kind of with the Rockets and everything. It was kind of a weird
where he's at.
So, I think there's good chemistry there. I think they're a solid team, but again, we'll have to see how well Young adjusts, how well the team adjusts, and we'll see.
Collins got that big contract. Some guys can handle a big contract.
Well, some people start to Yeah,
think
and
about
just
it a little bit.
well,
Not
there's
even
that
being
and
lazy. Sometimes a guy will over try. How can I prove that I'm worth it?
yeah.
You proved you were worth it. That's why they gave it to you. Now just keep playing the way you've been playing. But that can really screw with some people. He comes out with a slow start, doesn't start getting his head, that type of stuff. So again, this team is a very solid team. Could they beat Miami for that slot?
I don't think. I mean, maybe. Well,
could.
Miami, sure, Miami, but I don't know if they
in the division.
Yeah, I think yeah, Miami, sure, but I mean, once you kind of get out of that, then it really starts to fall apart.
Right,
and I think that's a lot with this division and a whole.
Because we are just about to leave the teams that we know positively are in the playoffs, and we're talking playoffs and stuff like that. Where we had I had to keep stopping myself from talking about the playoffs. With the Hawks and Miami, I won't have as much of an issue probably on the next.
Yeah, exactly.
So, are we good with the Hawks?
Yeah, I'm good.
So, the Hornets.
Hey, it's all coming down to one player.
Yeah, this
one player
might be the easiest team in the league to talk about.
If Johnny Haircut is healthy and playing well.
I think that's the guy you were going to say. I was trying to set it up more. I was going to build the
everyone. You know, I'm sure everyone thinks. I was talking about LaMelo Ball, and to be honest, that's really who matters. But
they have someone other than
if you watch some of our old stuff, just I don't even know how that started. To be honest with you, the whole Johnny Haircut. I just started going off on Johnny Haircut.
Him as Johnny Haircut. So
yeah, because when he left Boston, it's when he left Boston, and it was like, okay, look, I'm sorry, but if there's any player in the league that looks like he should be playing in Boston.
That is for sure.
But
better or worse, that is for sure.
But I mean, to be fair though, yeah, I mean, I think the subtitle you got there pretty much calls it. It's LaMelo or bust, and I don't think they've got enough else on the floor to really make a difference. I think potentially he could play you into a spot. They have Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges is still on the team, right?
Yeah,
he might be starting over PJ.
It goes back and forth. I believe PJ is the starter or was the starter. You know how that goes.
Sure.
At least when I was putting this together, it is possible.
No, I mean, I think it kind of depends on how you want to play it. I mean, I could see them put Miles in at the 4 and then have PJ slot in that where you could. I do too. Yeah. And have PJ come in as someone that you could slot into the 4 or the 5, depending on how you want to play it. Or you could have.
I would actually take out Plumlee if I could. That would be
my yeah, exactly.
Best type of.
But I think and again, it kind of depends on how you want to do the minutes there. I think that if you wanted to have Bridges off the bench, then you could potentially take advantage of some matchups with some other team's second squad. But I mean, as far as if I would say just pure skill level and everything, I would put Bridges there, but maybe for just kind of chemistry and who you need on the floor when maybe this work, maybe this makes sense, and then have Bridges come in. He can come in at the 4 or the 3 and really get some points quickly. I
could see them experimenting with a lineup. It would be small. They would have to battle, but honestly, I think it might be one of their better lineups. To be honest, you could get PJ Tucker or put in Miles Bridges, and then have what's the guy that they signed from Golden State? Kelly Oubre.
Yeah,
they're there. Yeah. So if you can get Oubre in, even if you put Terry Rozier, it may not be enough scoring, but it may be at the same time. Have Hayward out there, and at times when Hayward's not healthy, then Rozier could go into that spot. Get Bridges, PJ Washington, and maybe Oubre out there.
Oh yeah.
Position, let them float around, let them figure it out. I could see that being a faster paced front court that could, as long as they could rebound. And I think they're long enough where they can kind of Oubre. He's a small forward, really.
I think they could rebound by committee, and I think PJ's solid enough. I think Bridges is good enough
I see that being a fast enough team. I think that's the biggest thing. You got to play to your guys, your star's strength. LaMelo is a heck of a passer, and he wants to run. He's young enough, he's fast enough, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
you need to build to that. So having somebody like Plumlee is nice because biggest person probably on their team, but he's also slow as molasses. He's not going to be able to get up and down the court. So yes, he may be able to secure the rebound, which is the first thing you have to do to have any sort of transition, right?
He's a decent pick and roll, pick and pop kind of big. So I could see maybe they might want him out there to be able to come in and kind of some of the shooting, and then be able to help LaMelo out with some of the screens and picks and things like that a little more, because Bridges isn't really the best at that. And so, Washington, if they did, and that might be another reason why they might have Washington in there. I do agree. Plumlee's a bit of an odd fit. I could definitely see other folks that could maybe fit slot in there a little bit easier. But they, we'll have to see. I agree though. I think if you put PJ in as kind of a small five,
basically,
and it's basically they have him again. Kind of looking at least on ESPN's depth chart, they have him in as the second five anyway. We have to take this with a grain of salt, but I think that basically though they're really running kind of an 8 to 9 man rotation realistically.
Right.
That's another thing, is that they're going to need to figure out how they want to run that. Also, Rozier's out, so they're also going to have to kind of figure out what to do with that until he comes back. They're not very deep at the 2 because they got Oubre, but he's more of a 3 and could really probably play the 4 if they needed him to.
He's that tweener.
Yeah, he's not really. They kind of have him there at the 2 because
he was a better shooter, not last year, but the year before.
Right.
He was in. Was it Suns? Was he
the Suns? Yeah, he was.
He was a better shooter then. Mm-hmm. Last year with the Warriors, he couldn't shoot at all. For a while there, he was bad. He was somewhere in the 20% range. You
also got to wonder if it was just sheer nerves being in the Warriors, being coached by Steve Kerr, and it's just might have just got to him. So if he can come out here and kind of pick up some of that a little bit and have a little bit, again, I know you got Johnny here caught on the floor. I know he's a knockout shooter, but he's not like Clay or Steph or Kerr back in the day. I think not. I'm kind of halfway joking, but I wonder if that might have been a little bit. It might have gotten in his head a little bit, just kind of being on that team.
It could have. Okay, I got it. Yeah, that is definitely.
So anyway,
this team, if you notice, the basketball it can't quite decide.
Yeah, I agree with that.
To go lottery.
I agree with that. Lottery. I could see this. I could see this team.
Get sheer will of Lamar.
Yeah, I think so.
10th spot playing.
And I see this being a team that might be able to sneak into the playoffs, depending on other teams self-destructing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
but more on they'd probably still be in the play-in. and
think
have
they're
to
a
figure it
play-in
out
team.
from there, if at best, I think. And
Again,
you know,
the
and then
play-in teams. Yeah.
probably get beat by somebody and not get.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
so
they're not winning.
yeah, I don't think so.
They're not going to get to the playoffs.
I don't see it. I just don't see it.
Mm-mm.
So
I mean, things would have to really. There would have to be a couple of other guys outside of LaMelo that really took major steps forward. I'd see them as 10th. That was kind of my.
I think that's fair.
They're right on that line. So
I think that's fair.
they're right on that line with this other team.
Well,
basketball is faded a little more toward lottery in this.
Yeah,
I'll let you have this one.
Well, so much of this, I have a hard time because for folks who know this, you know, the Washington, you know, previously the Bullets and now the Wizards, you know, for the longest time were my team, and so it's hard. There's so many questions. One, obviously, the 800-pound gorilla is Bradley Beal going to stay or not? Because really a lot of what they do and how well they do it is ultimately going to depend on whether he's on the floor or not, and then what they get for him if they get rid of him. But I don't know what they were going to get that would really help to fill that gap that he would leave. But also, there's so many. I mean, just looking at that starting five right there, like three of them are completely brand new to the team.
Yeah. Gafford was there last season.
But yeah,
trade. He got it was trade deadline.
Yep.
Came from the Bulls.
Yeah, he played basically half a season with them.
Not even.
Yeah, exactly.
Deadlines. So about third, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then Kuzma, and then Dinwiddie, Hachimura, and Beal, really the two that have been there for a while. And again, Beal's a freaking rotating door right now. I don't know. Or it's kind of like a roundabout, and it's like, oh, I'll decide to go that way. I have no idea.
To be fair to him, I will say everybody's like, well, we don't know if he wants. He has repeatedly said
it's not him. It's not. He's not. No, I agree. And that's a good point to make. He's not driving that. It's not.
I don't want to get him confused with them.
No, that's. I'm glad you said that because no, he's not. That's not what it is. It's more the fact that he's a high commodity and on a bad team, and if Washington wants to rebuild, then yes, it would make sense to unload him and try and see what you can get for it. So and there are quite a few teams interested. So I think that
the whole league, I mean, legitimately, the entire league would go, wait, can we? At some point, their GM or their coach is going to go, hey, can we get him? Wait, can we get him? He would fit in anywhere. Some places better than others.
Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing is like right now, it's like, as great as it would be, like logistically, I don't see him fitting, say, in the Bulls just because they're so guard and forward and wing heavy as it is. But you get a team that has like
the Bulls is.
I know. You know
who's buddies with him.
I know.
No, I don't think so. I agree.
I mean, he could go to a couple of those up, you know what? Like Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Would completely change this conversation. Because then, you're looking at a team that has, that's very thin. I don't think they're going to trade him within the division, but conference. I think that, you could see him sliding in there and then move whatever pieces you need to move, but, be able to go in there and then, even if you took out Hero or whatever and still had Robinson coming off the bench or however you needed to move it, basically anybody whose last name isn't Butler,
Right. That's
You
pretty
could,
much what it comes down
you know,
to.
especially
Butler,
kind
Bam,
of
or Lowry. I mean, those are
really, yeah. Just because, you'd still need, but he's a guy that can, run the floor. He's good with the ball in his hand. Not a true point guard, but he's someone that is he's a good playmaker at the very least, even just for himself.
absolutely.
And then he can get
He can
attention and
isolate
then
the
kick
board,
out,
run the offense through.
Yeah.
Right.
So if anything else, he would fit there. Anyway, it really boils down to what happens with Beal. It really just depends on what happens with Beal, and then how this team gels. Because Dinwiddie's a solid player. Gafford's a decent big. And
better
you got
than people give him credit for.
I mean, you've got Kuzma, who's, he's Kuzma. We've seen what he can do. He's a good combo forward.
Let's chat about Kuz for a minute. At what point, I got to tell you, I looked at him, and when I was kind of putting this together, I was like, oh, they have Kuzma. We seem to, he needs to decide what he is, and this is his year. Okay, he had a heck of a rookie season. Came out of nowhere, was surprised. Hey, this guy can play. He was a late draft pick. He was a late pick. Okay, cool, great. He had a really great rookie season. Really good rookie season. Really good rookie season. Out of nowhere. Again, it was the out of nowhere. Okay, we didn't expect you. You were a low pick. Oh my goodness, you can actually walk and chew gum. That's great.
Right.
And then, to be fair, that team that he was on that was young, and it was Lonzo Ball and all, a bunch of young guys, that went away, and he was the last man standing that was under 50. The
Lakers are looking kind of like not even the NWO. They're looking like some of those stables that were set up. They were kind of based off the NWO and TNA. Back in in 2008. 2009 time frame,
not the Aces and Eights, but what was the Legends? No, it was the one that's
Immortal, and then they had the Millionaires Club, and then you have but anyway, you had a bunch of, basically really seriously Nash with barely a wheel, those guys, Hogan. I mean, really LA's starting to get there.
That old when Kuz was there, but we need to do a Laker one for sure.
Sure,
we gotta talk about that for sure. Kuzma, he always gets a lot of rope. Put it like that. He gets it's because of this. It's because of it's this. Again, LeBron's not for everybody. You got to play a certain way. He's hard to probably play around. Talk about a guy, we were talking about Athletic Gig, nervous in, games.
Sure.
You're a young player coming in the league, and LeBron shows up.
And you're effectively his backup.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're the only guy that was left from all the guys he just ran out of town.
Right.
And, I mean, legitimately, he ran them out of town. They're like, we got to go get AD. Let's bring him up here for these jokers. I'm not so sure that he wasn't one of the jokers that LeBron was like, you can get him out. And the Lakers maybe just were like, we didn't have to. We kept him.
Sure.
You don't know.
Sure.
And because of that, that can mess with you. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I think.
But it's put up or shut up time for him.
That's what I was going to say. I think.
I've heard about him and how great he is, but if you watch him in games, he drifts a lot.
Yeah.
Not a good defender. Could be a good defender. It's just like he has other stuff going on in his mind. Quite frankly, in a weird, not nearly the off-court drama, in a weird way, he hasn't changed since he came in the league. And because teams just know sort of what he is, it's like he's, if you're not moving forward, you're going backwards. No matter what, standing still is moving backwards still.
Sure.
That's where he's at. I see him, Ben Simmons. That different?
Not really. It's just that Ben's already came in with such a higher ceiling. Well, I'm sorry. His floor was already so much higher.
His floor was here.
Yeah. And then
changed same guy.
I agree. I
And
think that
I see that in the same way.
I agree.
Shut up, Pound.
I think that this is his time. And I wonder. I think Kuzma needs the right coach. You know, I think because basically, bottom line, whoever's got the coach title when you're on a LeBron team, you're dealing with LeBron. And basically, he's the coach.
He's title says head coach. You're really assistant.
Exactly. You're kind of like a baseball manager. It's not really quite the same kind of gig. It's like a traditional NBA coach. The other part that I would say is that I think that he has some discipline issues, and I wonder also if maybe because of being on the team with LeBron, and maybe if it was something where maybe LeBron wasn't as invested in Kuzma, he didn't get the development that he needed. Whereas with Simmons, I think it was more of an issue of he started out so high that no one really bothered to give him much of guidance because it was just, hey, you're already there, man. You're ready to go. Keep rolling, you know? Basically.
Yeah.
So I think that I think that Kuzma, depending on the right coaching circumstances, because he's in a position here to really step up and be a solid number 2 to Beal. If that can work, you know, he can be that second option. I mean, really,
you should definitely push Dinwiddie out of that slot because on this team right now today, Spencer is that number 2 at point guard.
Sure, but I think that Kuzma,
he just keeps reminding me of like Walt Frazier. The Knicks in the 70s.
He does.
Every time I see this, that's the only thing I can see in this picture.
He does have that Clyde with the beard. No, yeah.
Oh yeah,
I think he has that opportunity to kind of fill in that slot, and I think, you know, especially with the way it's working, I think you know, you can let Dinwiddie kind of focus more at just being the point guard, which I think he's good at. I mean, he can score. He can get it done, but I think at least potential-wise, Kuzma could seriously be the number 2 in this team. But again, then what happens if Beal leaves? And so that's where, again, there's so many questions.
I think if Kuzma becomes a true number 2 to Beal, I think this team is the playoff team. I think that. Sure. They become and when I say playoff team, I'm using that sort of loosely. I'm including the play-in tournament.
Right. Yeah.
One of the top 10 teams in the East. So the play-in, technically speaking, the play-in tournament is if you're 9 or 10, not in the playoffs until you win games.
Right.
So, but we all know that. But I'm saying just
at the very least, I think they could position themselves. And the other thing too that, you know, don't forget that with that trade with the Lakers, that the way it worked out, they also got KCP and Montrezl Harrell.
Okay.
So
actually, it was funny to see how Montrezl Harrell got a technical foul for talking to in the opener tonight. So anyhow, go ahead.
So I'm saying, you know, that's the other thing too, is that you could see, you know, depending, you have some flexibility there where you could have, you know, depending, you could have KCP out there with Kuzma and have Hachimura come off the bench. You could have KCP out there with Hachimura, have Kuzma come off the bench, depending on how they're playing. Because again, he's more built as like a more of a today's power forward than a 3, really. But he could fill either spot. They got Aaron Holiday as backup point guard. Nato's not terrible. You got that guy Kispert who can shoot pretty well. He's going to probably coming off the third string, quasi second string, depending on how they want to roll it. But you know, could shoot. Davis Bertans, again, is more of a backup 4, but is a stretch 4, brings a lot of skill to the game. So I think they've got at least some pieces here where I think they're in a better position to operate optimally. Again, assuming that Beal stays and Kuzma at least steps up to a solid backup, or ideally kind of that star forward for them to really be able to help flesh this out. And I think that with Dinwiddie and then what they have coming off the bench, I think they've got some good pieces, not like deep into the playoffs, but at the very least,
playing game.
Oh, it'd be tough. It could be tough. It could be tough.
That's what's happening.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's always just kind of it's like any glimpses of hope with this team. It's just kind of like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's different.
So let me ask you, what do you think they should do? I know what I would do.
I would move him. I mean, I think just because he's such a good player, he's also the kind of one of those guys where he's the kind of talent where he doesn't need to be wasted on a bad team, and that's pretty much where he is. And I think that needs to change.
I think the problem with that is, if I'm Washington, because I try to always think of it also from an ownership view.
Sure.
If I'm at the end of the day, Washington is a team or the Wizards are a team that they own. It means it's a commodity. I mean, their players are commodities.
Right.
And if I'm trying to sell people to come to my arena and watch my team play, and I get rid of Beal, what am I selling? I mean, honestly, come see Daniel Gafford. I like Gafford. Bulls fan. I like Gafford. Heck, I wish he was still in Chicago. Actually, really.
Yeah, exactly. No, he's who you need in there. Yeah, for sure.
You can always sell hope, absolutely. But if you trade Beal, it has got to be a Godfather type package. I hate to say it that way, and I don't know that they would get it,
right?
Because he's becoming a free agent, and they waited so long.
Well, I think that's the other thing too. I mean,
almost what you have to get. If I go, hey, we got 4 first rounders, and this guy that's a sort of good player as well. He's young. That type of thing. People go, okay, fair enough. Hey, we got 4 draft picks. We could get maybe all unprotected. We might get a number 1 pick. And oh man, we're going to be bad ourselves plus the other picks. Okay, fair enough. Again, as a fan of a team that's been bad for a long time, you hang your hat on that.
Right, right.
So I think they would have, if they do it, they just have to make sure it is that type of Godfather deal. Turn around and trade him for a couple of protected first and somebody's, bad contracts.
Yeah.
It's
going to be bad. It's going to be bad. I mean, all I can say is that Washington's been bad for a very, very long time, and it somehow still sold tickets. Cleveland Cavaliers and the Detroit Pistons somehow still managed to sell tickets. But I get what you're saying. But again, I think it is going to come down to a point where they're going to need to figure out, because they're either going to need to pull the trigger on something, or they're likely to lose him. Even though I know he's saying that, I want to stay. And I think, for the most part, you can trust him on that. But
he hasn't been holding.
No, he hadn't done any of that.
I'm playing out my contract. Like at the end of the contract, I'm a free agent.
Exactly.
Around.
Exactly.
Then I'm not demanding a trade or putting you in a bad position. And for that, you got to give him a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
Some other players in the East that don't.
But what I was going to say is that once he's that free agent, I just can't see him sticking around, and so you're going to end up getting nothing at all. So they're going to have to do something. And like you said, the better the deal you can get, great. But at the end of it all, too, especially the later they go with this, the other teams are going to know that. Well, guess what? Your alternative is Bupkis. So
now, with that said, to be fair, now on the opposite end of that, it may be, yes, the Wizards could lose him for nothing. But if you were a team that's operating over the salary cap, and you wouldn't be able to go and sign Bradley Beal for the max.
Sure.
Well, you can't just outright sign him. Yeah. Now the teams that have the money, we good. No, we'll keep everybody we have in our picks. We'll just add him because we have the money.
Right.
Not that many teams that's going to be able to do that.
No.
That's where you can get something.
Sure.
Sign and trade or something like that, but nothing that not nearly the value that you were going to have last year if you that type of thing.
I'm actually kind of surprised that it didn't happen last year, but
I am too.
But anyway,
I thought last year was a perfect year to do it. I think the whole COVID thing and just the way the whole year came out may have
slowed everything down. I agree.
Everything down. I was like, we're not making any crazy changes. Let's just hang tight. So, all right. And the final team in the division, Orlando Magic. This is the team of hope right here. What am I saying about you guys?
Got nothing. I really don't know what to say about these guys, other than Marquez Fultz.
Suggs
really needed to be something more than what he is. Now he's out right now. He's hurt and he's kind of coming off of it.
He's hurt now.
I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he's still hurt and coming off of it, or if he got hurt again.
This team is the team built on hope. Let's just call this like it is. I don't think that this is the team of hope. They hope that Mo Bamba, Mr. 7'5" on the bench, and he's a young player.
Yeah.
Centers take a while. And it's probably the taller you are, even more of the while it'll take. They hope he becomes their true center.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Suggs is their star right now. He's their star now. He's their star for the future. He's their guy. He's the guy that's going to be on all the posters. He's all the bulletin boards, et cetera, et cetera. Every pamphlet that they hand out, Suggs is their guy. Fultz, at this point, I think you just got to say he's a solid player. He's healthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's not a star. He's not going to be a star.
No.
Don't wait on him to be a star. He's what he is. They are hoping that Terrence Ross is a journeyman. He's been around. He's a good shooter. He's a 3D guy. That's he also plays. He's a good.
Yeah.
He plays hard. Nothing special. There's nothing special about this. Suggs could be special. I am specifically staying away from one particular player's name. I'm not going to say it because I'm going to show bias. So I am going to let you talk about anyone else that I have not mentioned.
It takes a special kind of special to be able to trip on nothing.
Yep.
Really, it seriously takes. Now I've heard he's actually blossomed here in Orlando. He's actually started to play decently, but I think really between like Mo Bamba or Robin Lopez, it's really going to need to go down with them, because unless he really shows up and does some and really starts to show out, then I don't know.
As much as I'm kind of, and obviously we're talking about Wendell Carter Jr., former Chicago Bull. He is a very good human being. That's sort of like saying, when your buddy's going to hook you up with a girl, or one of your friends that are girls are going to hook you up with one of their girlfriends.
Oh, he's so nice.
They have such a good personality. What does that mean? We all know what that means.
Yeah.
That's code. Wendell Carter has a good personality. He has all of the makings of a player that could really be something. And if it worked out, let's say Bamba could become that, let's say, all right, and Carter could slide over to his real position. To be fair, he is playing out. He has always played out of position. He's not a center. Playing center. He's not even a center for today's. So he's just not strong, and he doesn't have the intestinal fortitude. That's the edited version.
Right.
To battle, and he doesn't. His personality is a little bit too passive. That's that good person type of thing. Kind of comes back. You kind of need a little bit of the A personality, a little bit more.
Sure.
And because of that, he starts to, if any pressure, basket. If he's playing that type of thing, that's really what his issue is. He starts to sink down. He's not going to be a star for your team. But could he be? People always want to compare him to Al Horford. I think they're selling Al Horford short.
Yeah.
Yes, they're about the same. Horford's a little bit, but they kind of had a similar skill set coming out of college. I've watched him years in league. His first few years, granted, Chicago was a complete dumpster fire. Of between the head coaches and the front office, multiple head coaches, etc. It wasn't the best place to put a young player. No, by no means. He is. I think it's that personality thing. Some people just have it in him, and for that reason, I think he'll get stats at the end of the night. You'll look at it, and he will have, especially on this team, because if you're any player on a bad team, tends to be able to get some stats. If you're a starter, you play. There are rebounds to get. You're playing 35 minutes, 35 minutes a night. Walk into 10 rebounds as a center.
Sure.
You should fall into 10 rebounds. So you look, he's averaging a double-double. Yeah. Fell into 10 rebounds because happened to be also on not making a difference. He's not rebounding and making a difference. He's not scoring at the points of the game that you need. Okay, we need to go to this guy and we can really make a difference at this point. I think Carlos Boozer back in the day, you'll look at the end of the game, he has 20 and 10. You go, I don't remember him scoring any of those points. Score at all.
Right.
I see Carter more in that category. And we keep talking about just to get the reference. Wendell Carter's very last game in Chicago, there was a play. I wish we had it keep it up because I was. There was a play. It summed up everything about Wendell Carter Jr.'s whole time in Chicago. It was the last game that he played. He was playing against Cleveland. It was the last game before. In fact, I think he got traded either that night or the next day. So it was legitimately his last game. And he gets the ball. There was a steal. He gets the ball wide open under the basket. There's no one but him in the basket, in the lane. There's space. He turns, trips over what I can only assume is some very aggressive air, and falls to the ground, flings the ball up. The announcer even tries to play it off like, "Oh, I think he might have gotten hurt." And he
got right back up. Yeah.
I
think it kind of comes to sort of the nerves and the excitement and everything else, because you look at it and he
just summed
made
up
a
everything.
very ill-advised. Yeah, it wasn't even really a trip. It was he just just kind of bad court awareness, just because of where he tried to position himself, and then I think he tried to wait a minute, I moved up too far, and then it just fell apart from there. And
actually, to be fair, that whole play sums him up.
Right.
He's starting. Yeah. I think he's a really smart player, like a legitimately smart person.
Right.
Legitimately. I mean, we went to Duke, and as much as I may want to make fun of Duke, it is, yes, you can get there as a basketball player because you're a basketball player. Absolutely. Well, he also graduated with some degrees, so he's not just a dummy. He's got a lot of. I think he thinks too much, and that's his problem. He becomes so smart that he's dumb, and he'll try to eat the plastic fruit. He might be that. He might be that guy.
Kind of the idiot savant.
If you ever get somebody to just cut that off, go full on jock. Like if you just cut it off, man.
Yeah.
React and do it. And sometimes you could see him legitimately thinking. In Chicago, it was 10 times worse than anything that has happened in Orlando. but you would see him thinking. I mean, it's hard to see someone thinking, but you could legitimately see him thinking. He get the ball and was like, hey, I have the ball now. I should go spin to this way, or I should pass it out. Maybe I'll pass. And by that time, 20 seconds is gone by. And so that is his biggest issue. If he can ever get out of his own head, there may be a chance. But until that time,
Well, yeah.
Jalen Suggs. It's about Jalen Suggs, first, second, third, fifth.
They also have RJ Hampton. They have Michael Carter Williams. Again, not like just like superstar names here, but you know, at least some. I mean,
they're going to the lottery, right?
Yeah. They got Hans and Franz Wagner. It's Franz Wagner and Matthias Wagner. I have no idea if they're related or not, but and they picked up
real deep on the Magic bench right now.
They picked up Gary Harris from Denver. So I mean they've got some pieces, but I really just don't see any of it. Yeah, Twan Moore, Robin Lopez. Yeah, I mean they're all good role players.
Journeyman.
Yeah, exactly. And I just don't see any of it. Like I said, RJ Hampton's young. I don't foresee him stepping up, but he could.
Yeah, I think his problem is he's similar to the strengths of I use that term a little, but strengths of the team, which is if Fultz is healthy. And Suggs and Greg Anthony's son,
Cole Anthony.
Cole Anthony. And then you get RJ. You know, RJ's in fourth now. Yeah. Suggs isn't really a point guard, but he can handle the ball. He's more of the two.
Sure.
But he handles the ball as well. So, you get kind of, where do you get minutes, that type of thing. I think for this team, if they could get Obamba to really play center and be a legitimate game-changing type of a center, and then you could slide Carter over to the power forward spot. You got something. It may not be anything that's going to be lead out of. I mean, they're going to the lottery, but it's something. It's something where if I was watching this young team, like, okay, yeah, I can get behind this. I can get behind this type of thing. But yeah, let's not kid ourselves. They're in the lottery this year.
All I know,
that number one pick.
All I know is looking at the biopic for Robin Lopez. All I can say is that I hope that he gets rid of the sideshow Bob hairdo. That's
never getting rid of it. Actually, if he ever got rid of it, it's important for him to keep.
Dude, look too much like at least get the beard. Like I mean, I've seen him work it a little bit differently, because I mean, if you look at that biopic off ESPN, man, that is sideshow Bob all day.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Yeah, no, that again, guys like that you have to assume they're looking to trade him for some picks somewhere during the season.
Sure.
What else do you have? Gary Harris. We didn't talk about him. Gary Harris is on this team, but he's hurt. He's a really good player. Again, they've got guys. I didn't even mention him. So yeah, RJ's even behind him as well.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, Michael Carter Williams is just filler. He can't shoot worse than I do right now. So he's nothing on this team. Yeah,
and again,
also a player.
They have almost like too much of the wrong kind of depth at guard, and maybe not enough on kind of the big side, on the bigger side. Because I mean, you got Chuma, who's okay, fine. He's a power forward, but you talk to Wendell Carter's toughness. I don't know if Chuma has enough of it to counteract that.
Sure.
And so
PJ Tucker down there.
Right? No.
Right.
So I think there's just I think they're missing a piece. Kind of not as
You just
good,
watch
but
move some people
a
around.
similar issue that I still see Chicago having. Although I still think Chicago can be a zillion times better, but they need that, and maybe Wendell Carter can kind of fill that role to a point, but they need somebody that they can slot in at the 4/5 that can be kind
Like
of
I
more
said,
of that tough rebounder kind of,
he's the one that they're working. That's who they want there.
Right.
He is. I wouldn't call him a bust yet because it just takes guys a long time.
Sure.
Him and Wendell Carter actually came out in the same draft, so
Okay.
They went one pick away from each other. Magic picked Bamba at 6, and the Bulls had one of their 900 number 7 picks and took Wendell Carter right after him. So they are the 6th and 7th picks of their draft. That's who they want to play that. They want Carter to slide over to power forward. Okay, then you kind of can start making a case and get another lottery pick. Okay, now you take another lottery pick. Let's put them into the lineup. All right, let's see where this goes. That type of thing. But yeah, I think we've talked about Orlando.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the end of that. So again, Miami, I think, is going to win the division. The Hawks second.
I think that's a fair placement. I can't really see, barring anything crazy, I can't see anything else that would shake that up too much. I mean, I just don't really see them getting very, very far. Again, I mean, if you look at some of the other teams that we talked about, even in the last round, they were kind of, maybe even a little bit further down, like Boston.
Right.
Outside of, say, the Hawks and Miami, I don't see any of these teams really being able to beat even Boston right now. And then you got, then like the Bucks, I mean, forget it. It's and like even like, and then like if you get any kind of sense out of the 76ers and the Nets, then they're going to be a problem. And then you've got the Bulls right now, who are legitimately looking like a solid team in there, even if they're maybe, I still think they're going to, we'll talk about them later, but I think you talk about teams that are going to be the reason why these teams, even just outside of their own problems, are not going to get very far.
Teams like the Magic should be teams that any self-respecting playoff team should just, one of the other podcasters that I listen to, Big Dave, shout out to Balls. He bum slaying. The Orlando should be on the end of the losing end of bum slaying this year for sure. They should any self-respecting playoff team or playoff hopeful team should slay them. They by halftime, third quarter, your guys should be thinking about the bench, your starters. And your bench guy should be really excited because they should get a lot of playing time in that game. That's really what it comes down to. So
I was going to say they should.
Anyhow,
I was going to say they should be licking their lips, man. That's just
we got
you. And okay, we're getting through this.
I'm the 12th man on the team.
I'm playing tonight.
Let's get out there. Yeah, honestly, that is what's happening.
Yeah.
Any self-respecting playoff hopeful team. That. Anyhow.
Yep.
But that's it for the Southeast Division. It's
more of these teams need to be a little bit better. That's something I can say. It just feels like there's just not enough kind of spread of the competitiveness. It's definitely seeming to kind of fall into a few key teams, and then it's just a fall. Just the shelf, just the cliff, just drops off.
I would say it does and doesn't. I think the East is. We'll get into that in the next.
Yeah.
I was gonna say let's end this for tonight, and then we'll chat about that other conference, that
other division. Yeah, that other. It's got some other team on there that we won't talk about yet. All right, but hey, thank you. If you like what we talked about tonight, definitely drop a comment, like, dislike. Actually, the YouTube algorithm doesn't care, so either way, hit drop a comment, like or dislike, whatever you choose. Hit a subscribe if you think we deserved it. And with that, this is Good Work signing off.
Later, fam.